Frank Murphy didn't love his job, but it paid the bills. His life, much like the bank he worked at, was a predictable, well-oiled machine. It followed predictable hours, gave him predictable days off where he didn't do much of anything, and provided him with a steady schedule. Frank wasn't happy. Happy was too strong of a word. He was alive and stable, but there was always a part of Frank's mind that awoke when he was daydreaming. A part of his mind that longed for a world of fantasy and intrigue. It all felt so familiar to him, but he always reminded himself it wasn't real. Sometimes, when Frank was out drinking with friends, he would joke about it, and his friends would tell him to write a book, since it sounded like a cool idea. Frank just laughed at the idea. He wasn't a storyteller. Frank was a banker. It was a perfectly normal Monday morning, around 11 a.m., when Yelena Ivanova burst through the door to Frank's modest office at the bank. She was winded, breathing heavily as she walked over to Frank's windows and closed the blinds. Frank stood up from his chair, nearly unable to process this sudden change to his routine. "Excuse me, what are you doing?" he asked. Yelena collapsed into one of the cheap leather seats positioned on the opposite side of Frank's desk. "I can't believe it took me this long to find you. I never would have guessed you'd be a banker," she said. Frank slowly reached for the phone on his desk. Yelena's eyes spotted his movement. Without hesitation, she stood up and ripped the phone out of his hands, taking the cord along with it. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Frank asked, his hands now clutching his chest. "Isn't it obvious? I'm trying to get you back home," Yelena replied, throwing the phone and broken cord into the empty chair beside her. Frank sighed. "I am home. You must have me mistaken for someone else. Now please, I must ask you to leave." Yelena stood up and calmly laid her hands on Frank's desk. She locked eyes with him, searching for something hidden in his gaze. "Time flows differently between worlds," she muttered. "How long have you been like this, I wonder?" Frank sighed heavily, now considering sending an email to his supervisor since Yelena destroyed his phone. He would need a distraction. "If you're asking how long I've been a banker, it's been about 5 years. Now, perhaps I could show you some of our loan options." Frank opened an email and started typing when suddenly Yelena picked up his monitor and threw it across the room. The bulky device crumpled against the far wall, landing in a heap of plastic and broken glass. "You are testing my patience, Bard!" Yelena shouted. Frank instinctively threw his hands up in surrender and backed toward the far corner of his office. "I told you! I'm just a banker! Now, I'm going to ask you once more to please leave. You're scaring me." Yelena took a deep breath and let it out slowly. She'd been making great progress toward controlling her temper, but she still had a ways to go. "Listen to me," she said calmly. "Your name is not Frank Murphy. You are not a banker. You are a bard from a distant world called Daydream, and I'm here to help you get home." Something about Yelena's words cut through Frank's anxiety and fear. They spoke directly to a deeper part of him, the same part of him that loved to daydream. "So, that's what it's called? Divine?" Frank asked. The word felt right on his tongue. It felt correct. Yelena nodded. "Yes! Do you remember?" Frank cocked his head. "I've always had daydreams about this place that doesn't exist. I just assumed it was all in my imagination." Yelena took a step closer, but Frank recoiled in fear. She paused, not wanting to lose the progress she was making. "It's not in your mind. It's real, and it's your home. Listen, it's a long story, but something happened to you there, and now you're sort of drifting. You weren't meant to come here, but I made the mistake, and I sort of brought you here. So now, I'm trying to get you home," Yelena said, trying to force a smile. The more Frank heard, the more it made sense, but he was still hesitant. "You say that place is my home, but I've been here my whole life." Yelena nodded. "Yes, as I mentioned, time flows differently here. Let me ask you this. How long have you had these daydreams about Devine?" Frank shrugged. "For as long as I can remember." And this place, this job, does it feel like home to you? Frank almost said yes, but the word caught on his tongue. No. No, I suppose not, he said. Yelena took a step forward again. Frank didn't flinch this time. Your real name is Fintan Merrybrook. You are a god, an Eluthian titan, one of the beings who tamed the realm so it could thrive. These days you're a traveling bard, the greatest storyteller in all of Devine, she said. Frank repeated the name back to her. Fintan Merrybrook? Yelena grinned. Yes! And there are people here in this world who know you. You have fans. Frank laughed. First you tell me I'm some accomplished storyteller, now you're telling me I have fans? Yelena pulled a smartphone out of her pocket. She started tapping and swiping on the screen. Her eyes narrowed. I still don't understand how to work these things. Here we go. Look at this. She turned the screen toward Frank, who skimmed the image and the text it showed. My goodness, that art looks just like me. But I don't recognize that other name. Who is Bradley Ramsey? Yelena put the phone back in her pocket. He's the author who introduced Devine to this world. We need to go see him next. He'll help you get home. Frank scoffed. Yes, well, that lazy writer will need to get off his ass and actually write the next chapter of The Order of the Pawn for that to ever happen. Yelena's eyes went wide. Frank slapped his hands over his mouth. I'm sorry. I don't know where that came from. What's happening to my voice? He shouted. No, this is a good thing. Your memories are coming back. Now, come on. We need to go see Bradley, Yelena said. Frank nodded. Right, yes, let me just... The door to Frank's office swung open. His supervisor, Dave, stood with 2 security guards flanking him. Frank, are you okay? I brought security, Dave said. The 2 security officers stormed into the room, making their way toward Yelena. Fintan, do something! Yelena shouted. Hearing that name again flipped a switch in Frank's mind. In the span of a single moment, centuries of memories came flooding back to him. They drowned out all the days as sitting at his desk at the bank. They obliterated his memories of eating alone, watching reruns of his favorite show in his 1-bedroom apartment. Those lonely nights where he cried himself to sleep were suddenly replaced with memories of magic, of technology that could shape entire worlds, of impossible landscapes where all manner of creatures and people congregated. Frank saw dwarves, he saw elves, he saw dragons soaring through the sky. It was all coming back to him at once. And just like that, Frank Murphy was gone, replaced by his true identity, Fintan Merrybrook. Unhand her this instant! Fintan shouted. The 2 security guards paused, utterly confused by Fintan's sudden change in voice. My friends, there has been a profound misunderstanding. I apologize, but my friend and I here need to depart, Fintan said. Frank, what's going on? What happened to your voice? Dave asked. I do apologize, Dave. You seem like a nice person from what I can remember, but Frank is gone. In fact, I dare say he never even existed. You now address Fintan Merrybrook, the greatest storyteller in all of Devine. Dave looked profoundly sad. I'm so confused. Frank's gone? Does this mean you won't be coming to Friday night drinks at Chili's anymore? Fintan offered a genuine smile as he laid his hand on Dave's shoulder. I'm afraid not, my friend. And, let's be honest, Chili's has gone downhill since they stopped offering 2-for-1 drinks. You really should find yourself a better establishment. Fintan turned back to Yelena and extended his hand. Shall we? Yelena took his hand and grinned. This went so much better than I thought it would. Fintan laughed. Well, if this is what you call a success, I'd hate to see what failure looks like. In any case, let us depart. We have a writer to find. Fintan and Yelena sprinted out of the office as the security guards and Dave exchanged dumbfounded looks. Dave shook his head. The guys at Chili's are never going to believe this.